Hi, my name is Jeff Harrison, and this is the Online Golf Clinic. My business partner and teaching professional, LPGA teaching professional, Amy Anderson, is behind the camera, and she's there so she can answer your questions. So I just want to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of, hey, what we're doing here and why we're doing it. Well, we call it the Online Golf Clinic because for years we've given clinics live where people can come out, we can work with them, and we do demonstrations, and then we help them play better golf. And we thought, well, why not take it to the masses? And the reason we did it because so many of our customers would come seasonally and then leave and then say things like, gosh, I wish you were here, take you back to wherever they were at. And we thought, well, we can do this with technology today. We just do a live interactive clinic. And so our goal here with this is really to answer and address, I would say, common issues that the average to elite or beginner golfer might face. And here's the coolest part: you can interact with this. So you have a place where you can put a question there, and Amy's back there watching on the computer, so you can put a question there, and then she'll relay it to me, and we'll address it. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through some of the commonalities that we see with our students and what we hear over the years. Now, I've been teaching or been in this game, I hate to say it, for almost 40 years. And I started when I was at birth. They gave me a club. So no, I'm just kidding. And Amy's been in it for quite a few years, decades as well. So we've seen a lot of things. And as we go through this, we see common threads of what goes on. And some of the things that we see that are common are, people hitting the ball fat, people topping the ball, people completely missing the ball, maybe not getting the distance they want, not hitting it straight, hitting it, big slices or big hooks, mostly big slices. But we want to talk about that. So let's take one today and let's talk about hitting the ball fat and why, what are some of the causes of that? And I want to kind of throw out that there's one myth out there that goes around, and I think if you're watching this, and if your husband or your spouse, doesn't have to be your husband, it could be your spouse is close, you can elbow them, that it's not because you moved your head. And I say that with certainty and sincerity because of the fact that we videotape a tremendous number of our students over the years, and even when people hit it fat, I never see their head do this before they hit the ball. It's something else. And I'll just say it, things are a little out of order. It's almost like you put your shoe on and then try to put your sock on. Nothing is defective. It's just the order of events that you put them on. So when we hit a ball fat, what happens is the club, this angle right here, that's almost like we pull the rubber band back. We pull it back and we've cocked it. We've gotten storage of power. And the ideal part for that to release is right when it hits the ball at the bottom of the swing. But when we release it early, it makes the bottom or the ground start to appear a little faster and when we make contact. So when we release maybe too soon, we may hit way behind the ball and actually top the ball, or we release it somewhere and then we hit the ball fat. And that's typically what happens. My bottom line is we're typically swing with our hands. Okay, and we start our swing with our hands on the way down. Now, I'm not saying you can't swing with your hands. I'm just saying if you're going to do this, you need to understand, hey, what I want to do, I want to hit my shot and release my hands properly. So I'm just going to show you a couple of shots here of doing that very thing and really just using my wrist. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cock my wrist. Now, I remember one time when I was at Mission Hills Country Club, and I was a head pro there at the time, and there was a gentleman there who had some surgery on his stomach, and he really couldn't do much turning. He was a little down, disappointed because he couldn't play much golf. And we started teaching him how to just hinge his wrist. And he said he hit it further than he ever hit it in his life just because there's so much power there. Many times I'll tell people, right there, that cocking of the wrist is about 40% of your power because angles store power. It's like if you took a piece of paper and you took that piece of paper and you laid it flat and you poured water on it, what would happen? That's right. Water would just disperse all over the ground or table wherever you're at. But if you took that same piece of paper and made angles in it and made a cup and then pour the water in it, what does it store? Water. Well, think of that as storing energy. So when you take the club back and you don't bend your arms and you don't let your let's say your trailing arm, if you don't let it bend and you don't let your wrist hinge, then you're not taking advantage of great opportunities for storing power. Conversely, if you release those angles too soon, then you've released the power too soon. And now you're just swinging with this dead weight. And that's why a lot of times we hit the ball heavy. Or fat. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a few swings. I'm just going to cock my wrist. I'm really not going to use my body. I'm just going to cock my wrist. And I hit that ball about 180. No, I'm just kidding. I hit that ball easily a distance I'd like to hit it, but I'm just using just my wrist cock. And I'm going to do that a couple times so you can see that happening. Just cocking my wrist and then recocking. The goal is to recock them on the other side. Now, it's real easy to tell when somebody is swung with their hands and arms only to generate power, because what happens, we hinge those wrists and then we finish really like this, and there's so much tension in the follow through and in the hands that we can't even recock our wrists on the side. And that's that snap we need. It's like if you took a towel, which I just happen to have here, we took a towel and we did this. Not only do I probably look like a girl, okay, Amy, but also there's no power there. But if I took it and I popped it, I have some pop in it. That's that rehinging of the wrist. So when we do this, we want to hinge and rehinge our wrist. So if we go through and we go hinge, see, now there's a fat shot, and you notice my finish stopped very short, didn't it? But if I rehinge my wrist on the other side, then I have to keep my hands or my grip pressure supple enough that I can rehinge my wrist. So I'm going to hinge and rehinge. And boy, it's a nice little shot out there. Don't have to be really strong to do this. You just have to say, you know what, if I hinge and rehinge my wrist, I can get a lot of power from that. So going back to the problem was we were hitting the ball fat, okay? So where we were contacting the ball was in the wrong place, was too far back. So that's half the problem, is identifying, hey, what's causing that? That's releasing the club too soon. So I want to show you a little drill. And this is how it works. We just simply take tees and we put them in the ground. And what that does, it gives us an opportunity to start practicing our contact position. So what we do is we put that in the ground, and our goal here is to hit the tee, then the turf, instead of the turf, then the tee. And that gives us feedback. Now, I would suggest don't do that with a golf ball for a while, because, hey, you're already hitting fat. You don't need any more brain damage. Just set it aside. And all we're going to do is we're going to hinge our wrists. We're going to cock our wrists and rehinge. And notice how the tee popped up. I almost caught at my teeth, but now I know I hit the tee first, then the turf. That would have been good contact. But let's see what happens if I release too soon. See the difference? I've released way back here and have no power, because when the release happens, that's where your maximum power is. So if your maximum power is right here, you want to be back here. Imagine if you were flying into Cabo. If you've flown into Cabo before, you have to come over that bit of a wash. And if the pilot decided to touch down too soon, you would be part of that wash. He has to get his timing right, so he puts his landing gear down on the other side of that wash. Okay, so the same thing here. So this is just practicing of saying, okay, I'm going to hinge and rehinge. I'm going to hit the tee and then the turf. Tee and then the turf. And we can do that 3 or 4 times. Go ahead and then put the ball down. Put it on the tee, because this is the wild part about this game. It makes us think we hit a good shot when we maybe didn't do it as well as we'd like. And I'm going to show you an example of this. I'm going to try real hard not to hit this one well. It's not easy for me, but I'll try. Okay, so here we go. So I hinge and rehinge. And I say, well, I know I did it, but wait a second. Did that tee pop out of the ground? No, it's still here. Watch. All I did is I drove it into the ground. So I want to make it pop out. And that's why what happens, sometimes people say, well, you know, my practice swings are great, but reality is not so good. We want to make the real ones just as good. So we hinge and rehinge and we tear the tee out. And now see, that's more like me. And now I tore the tee out. You can do exactly the same thing and make really good contact and change the game. And you notice I'm not making any pretty swing. I'm just saying, hey, if all I'm going to do is swing with my hands and arms, and it may be somebody that, as the example, the gentleman who I was talking about, he had injuries that restricted his body turning. Or maybe you're a weekend warrior. You pay 2 or 3 times a year. This is a great way for you to go out there and have fun and hit the ball well enough that you can enjoy playing golf with just about anybody, because those balls are pretty straight, easy. Amy will have no problem picking those up when we're done here, because they're all in a tight little grouping out there. Amy, do you have any questions there? So she says there's one person that says, well, what if you're left-handed? Well, it's just the opposite. I don't swing left-handed, but if you're swinging left-handed, you do the same thing. There's a hinging and rehinging on the other side. Now, here's the thing. A lot of times what happens is so as a kid, I had 4 sisters. And when we go on a trip, somebody would always yell shotgun. and everybody's heard about that, right? Well, shotgun is, hey, they get to sit in the front seat or they get set by the window. Well, how many people could do that? One. Well, here's what I want you to realize. If you're going to be an arm swinger, then the body supports it. If you're going to be a body swinger, then the arms support that. In other words, there's a lead and there's a follow. When we try to get both of them doing it, what happens is now it's very difficult. You have two people trying to sit in the same chair. You have two big body parts, your hands and arms and your body, trying to make the swing that really one needs to lead, one needs to follow. Now, I come from a big muscle or body does the work and the arms and hands follow. But you just saw there with all the swings that I made, you could certainly go the other way. So here's the example. When you're doing this and you're hinging, that momentum pulls you to here. But notice my finish looks pretty much the same as if I did this. If I turned my body, it looks pretty much the same because one led and the other followed. So when you're swinging and you're trying to get both of them to lead, you're going to be like two people going through a very small door. It's going to be tough, or trying to sit in that seat at the same time. Yell shotgun. Who are you? Hands first with the body leading, or body first and the hands leading? All right. All right. So that's, oh, by the way, that's true whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Amy, any other questions over there? Because the goal is we're here to answer your questions. So today, probably the most obvious was, hey, I hit the ball fat, right? The next one.
Oh, someone asked maybe next time we could talk about hitting it thin.
Hitting it thin. Sure, we can talk about hitting it thin. You can use that same drill, that what we call the T drill, to give you the same feeling. Because if you're hitting it thin, guess what? You're probably missing the T, right? Probably missing the T. So you can swing through there and hit that T and start tearing it out of the ground. A lot of times what happens is there's that two parts of your body trying to get in the same place at the same time. Because what happens, I'll go from this direction. If I try to swing and I swing my hands and arms, it makes my body raise up because I have to create space for this club to come through and my arms and hands to come through. And we do it so quickly, we don't realize we raised up. Or we actually, it's like going back to that airplane, we actually retract our arms to try to make that space, and our arms bend in here. You guys ever hear that term chicken wing? I know you have. That's what happens. This is the result of this. It didn't cause this. This caused this. No, that's an effect. The cause was you started with your hands first. You had to retract your wings, and then this is your finish because you had a real tight grip. But if you swing through and you get going like this, and you're brushing the turf, you're probably going to start making better contact as well.
One other question came in about divots. Do you want a divot or you just want to brush the grass?
Well, it's different with every club. As an example, I want to brush the grass if I'm hitting a fairway wood, or maybe I want to, when I say brush the grass, if it were teed up on a driver, I want to brush the tee out of the ground. But I'm going to take some divots most of the time. And I grew up in West Texas where the ground is very, very hard, cleachy actually. And I learned how to pick the ball off the turf because we literally broke golf clubs because the ground was so hard. I had to change the way because when I didn't take a divot, I found I was losing distance. And so what I did is I started learning how to take a divot. And because when you're not taking a divot, your club is coming in very shallow. And when that happens, notice how the shaft starts leaning back a little bit. When it leans back, I actually add loft. When I take a divot, it means I'm on a descending blow and the shaft is leaning forward, which actually takes less loft, or takes loft off the club, which less loft, same distance, or same club, more distance. So I would say if you can, if there's no physical restrictions for you, no bad wrist, things like that, I would really learn how to take a good divot. And if you're having trouble taking divots, and again, thin, a lot of times is you could be leaving your weight on your back foot as well, which when we start our hands first, that makes us raise up and leave our weight on our back foot. So you might want to start going this way. Hey, the first thing I do is get my weight on my left side, then swing through. And you might notice your contact improves and also your distance, and you'll start making some divots. That's a good question, Amy. All right, so I'll just hit a few balls here, and we'll, if anything's coming up, and again, the goal here is to really answer your questions. So if you found this was helpful, you have some ideas, shoot them into Amy. We'll improve what we do. It is a little strange talking to a camera where we can't really see the people. We like to do interactive stuff. A lot of times we'll have between 40 and 60 people at our clinics that we do, and this was just one of those things we thought, we'd rather do this because maybe there's 1,000 people that we can talk to all over the planet and then get their interaction. We'd love to do that. By the way, you know, the name of this program is called the Online Golf Clinic. We also have a website called the Online Golf Clinic as well. And that's where, when this is over, it's archived and it goes into that. We also have a lot of product in there. All of our drills are in there. We have a program called the Golf Improvement Program. Which is a 12-month series. It's once a month. You get a little longer lesson. And that was a quite expensive program, but that's all in that membership area. And you can join there. It's what, it's $30 a month, $25 a month. No, excuse me, it's $30 a month to join that. And you can go there and sign up. And it gives you access to all that. And also there's some extra bonuses on there. As an example, you can send us your swing. We'll analyze it. We can do it live here, or we can do it and then we send it back to you. There's a program we recommend. You can put it on your cell phone. It's called V1. It's a $4 app. And that way, when you send it to us, we'll pick it up the same way. Not critical. You can send it to us. Just take your video with your iPhone, and send it to us, and then we can analyze and send it back to you that way. So that's really how this whole thing got started and how it's growing. So as we go through this, we'll get better at this and answer more questions. More questions there, Amy? Did you have a question? Nope. Okay. So I had a few balls. We'll give it a few minutes. I'll watch my new iWatch I got Apple Watch that I got for the Christmas holidays, and we'll hit a few balls. For me, I just think of turning and turning. And when I turn and turn, I use my core. And the idea is, as I turn my core, it also makes my weight shift. And that's probably, I think, the number one issue we hear with people is, Amy, is they have a hard time getting their weight shifted. And a lot of times it's because you use your hands. When you use your hands, you've got momentum and weight going that way. So we'll counterbalance it by keeping weight on our other side. Because really, subconsciously, we don't want to fall down. We want to stay in balance. But then conversely, on the way down, we swing our hands first and our weight goes the opposite direction. So now we find ourselves out of balance. What's that? Okay. So thank you for joining us. And Amy's given me she actually has a hook out, so I'm going to avoid being hooked off the air. But thanks for joining us again. My name is Jeff Harrison. Amy Anderson. Join us here again at the Online Golf Clinic, and we'll see you again next time from sunny Southern California.